Sometimes if they have the dream of playing the sport and they didn't get picked up by a school that they wanted to attend with that sport, and maybe they go to a community college that has connections with one coach to another, so a community college to a 4-year, or maybe they are going to get faster or stronger or whatever their gift is going to be. These are all good reasons to consider what is the best path. It's not one path that's best for everybody.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clearing the Bases, the podcast where we step up to the plate and dive deep into the world of youth baseball. I'm your host, Jimmy Filangieri. On this show, we discuss all things related to the preparation and development of youth baseball players, coaches, and yes, even parents. So sit back, settle in, and get ready to hear from some of the greatest baseball minds out there.
If the pilot gets on the intercom and says, "Hey, just want you all to know it's going to feel like a rocket ship. We have a short runway. We're going." And even though he tells you your heart is beating, that's the student who waits until the very last minute to prepare. Then we have the one, the runway is so long, the plane is never going to take off, and you're like, dang, this is crazy. You have all the time in the world to prepare, and it's gentle and it's easy. So when should you start? The most ultimate time would be 7th and 8th grade. Ultimate would be when you promote from 8th grade because you haven't made any mistakes yet.
To be able to reach the highest levels of this game, you got to work hard. You got to get in the cages. You got to do your strength and conditioning. You got to throw your bullpens. There's all of this physical stuff that you need to do, and you need to work hard at it. But don't forget that you also have to get better at the mental side of the game. And one of the ways you can do that is increase baseball IQ by downloading and using the 6-Tool app.
For baseball coaches like you, every game brings measurable progress. However, game time isn't the time for trial and error learning. Instead, have a proactive approach. Use 6-Tool, the best baseball player development tool on the market. We provide a platform to level up your coaching strategy by helping you to quickly identify and address your players' knowledge of the game. By using our easy-to-implement interactive player quizzes, you can assess position-specific issues, overall baseball IQ, and much more. Win more games and develop better overall baseball players with effective off-the-field training. Visit us at 6-tool.com. 6-Tool. Get ahead in the game.
Okay, everybody, we're going to get at it again. So, every year, thousands of high school baseball players say the same thing. I'm going to play college baseball, and it's going to pay for my school. But here's the truth that most families don't hear early enough. Schools are now able to offer 34 scholarships at the Division I level. Used to be 11.7 scholarships split across an entire 40-man roster. Now the rosters have been cut to 34, so most will say, wow, that's more money. It went from 11.7, it went to 34. Well, here's the reality. There are only about 60 schools, and maybe not even that many, that will have the financial means to actually do this. So what does this really mean? It means that players and their families aren't just chasing radar guns and perfect game showcases. They're building academic leverage, financial strategy, and a plan. Today's guest knows exactly how to do that. Shellee Howard. She is a college admission expert with over 20 years of experience who has helped more than 15,000 students navigate the admissions process. Her students have earned over $23 million in scholarships, and many of them weren't relying on athletic money to do it. She's helped families send their kids to dream schools debt-free, including one son who graduated from Harvard University without loans by building a strategy most families never even know exists. So, if you're a high school baseball player who wants to play at the next level, if you're a parent hoping the game pays for college, or if you just want to understand how to position your student athlete to win on and off the field, this episode is going to shift your perspective. Let's raise the standard. Let's get to it. Welcome to Clearing the Bases, Shellee.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, for having me. It's my pleasure.
Oh, and it's really my pleasure. I'm so excited to jump into this because I think that this is some really important stuff that people need to hear. So take us back and start us through the journey of how you got started doing this.
So, interesting enough, I was brought up in a family of two entrepreneurs. One went to community college and the other went straight on to work. So I sat my parents down my senior year and I said, hey, what do you think about this college thing? Somebody says I should probably consider it. That's how much college planning I did. The thing about it is I was a softball player and I played for the USA, and I thought, well, I'm just going to get a full ride scholarship and they're going to come chasing after me and I don't really need to do anything. That didn't happen. And I was the catcher for the USA softball team. So I really want parents to understand, I feel exactly I have felt how you feel. Two of my four kids were scholar athletes as well. And so I can speak to one soccer player and one competitive cheerleader. And how this process got started is my firstborn came home from middle school. He says, Mom, I know exactly what I want to do after high school and after college. Will you help me? And I'm like, what happened at school today? He says, Mom, the high school counselor said we need to pick our classes for our freshman year and we could be anything we want to be, and I want to be a brain surgeon. And I was like, what? Just last week you wanted to play professional soccer. So where'd this come from? And he's like, well, I looked at the statistics and the chance of me making money playing soccer, probably not going to happen. So I'm going to lean on my brains and I'm going to go, and I want to go to one of those Ivy schools and I want to be a brain surgeon and help people get their life back. And I was like, wow, amazing. I love that. He says, will you help me? And that's when my heart skipped a beat. Like any parent listening, we would do anything for our children, and that's exactly what I did. So I went back to school and I got my master's degree. Then I went back to school and I became a certified independent college consultant. I started touring 25 colleges a semester.
Wow.
My firstborn did exactly what I asked him to do for 4 years. He applied to 12 schools, got accepted to 11, 7 full ride offers, got a full ride presidential scholarship to USC. I was like, great, I will learn the fight song. I don't know anything about it, but that sounds wonderful. And then it was a week later that we got this beautiful package from Harvard, and it says, you've been accepted. We'd like you to come and tour the campus. And that's when this whole wild side happened, because Harvard matched USC. So my son got to go pre-med to Harvard, graduated, and we didn't pay a dime.
Wow.
And he rode crew. So he didn't even stick with the sport. He totally jumped ship, said, I'm kind of done with that, Mom. I want to do something different. And he saw guys going down the Charles River and he's like, that's what I want to do. So we walked on and made the JV team and had a blast. It was really a great experience.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, first of all, very smart kid, obviously, to get accepted to those schools. And I mean, that's incredible. So he went to 4 years at Harvard, didn't pay a dime.
Not a dime. I mean,
okay.
He paid for a living, his dorm. So we paid for his dorm, but we would have had to pay for his living anywhere. So I look at it as a wash.
Right. So what I'm going to say is that most people, well, I don't want to say most people, but some people, a lot of people, okay, don't necessarily have those type of grades where people are going to throw money at them for academic scholarships. So what do? How do they navigate this? How do they, try and keep the cost down? Because we know the cost is crazy nowadays. Try and keep the cost down as much as they can.
It's so important. So College Ready, we help families from a 3.0 all the way to a perfect GPA and everything in between. We help need-based families. We help families who don't think they're going to get a dime, middle class, and then we help the multimillionaires who could write a check but would love to get a scholarship and not have to spend that money either. So for families who are listening, it really isn't just acceptable. My second born had a 3.5 GPA and got a full ride to University of Alabama. So there's money to be had. Last year, we had 29 seniors get $10.3 million in scholarships. This year, we haven't even got all the way through the application season and we're already at 5.3. So we're already outpacing what we did last year in money. So I want families to understand it's about a strategy, not about my kid's not this, my kid's not that, because I have 4, 2 boys, 2 girls. So it's not even a male-female thing. They all went to college and graduate without me paying a dime. So I want you to know my kids are no different than anybody else's kids. The only difference is I was determined to not pay $65,000 a year. That was because he wanted to go on to medical school. That means he would have taken on another $200,000. My son is graduating in 6 weeks from UCLA orthopedic surgery resident. He will start his first job at probably $600,000 a year. His total debt is $30,000.
That's incredible.
So that's what I want families to understand. What makes sense? Just like think about this, Jimmy, when you buy a home, right? You live in New York, I live in California. They're both really expensive. In other parts of the US, people would never pay full price for a home. They would pull up the flyer, they would look and they're like, oh, that's a starting place. But here's the thing, why do families not do that for college? Why do they think they have to pay sticker price?
Good point.
My students don't pay sticker price, and nor should your listeners.
Yeah,
so it's really important that families understand that you can do it. And, I know that you're paying for a pitching coach and a batting coach, and you're probably paying for a grounder coach and a fly ball coach, and you got more coaches than you know what to do with, right? I had all of them, but my parents never paid for a tutor.
Yeah.
Mystery to me. They absolutely could see the value in paying for a coach, but they never paid for me a tutor. And so I struggled. I wasn't like my firstborn. I think I got lucky and had a 3.0. Definitely did not apply myself. It wasn't because I was not smart enough. I was out playing softball. I had no desire to be sitting with the books. And I thought I was going to get a full ride for softball. So for me, I was like, I don't see the point. And that is where all the misconception comes in and why I do podcasts. Families are living in a myth that it's the same as it was when they graduated, which is nowhere close to that. And every sport has lots of money. And that's not true at all, because money generating sports, football, basketball, the ones who bring in the money, they have more money. It's business logic. Yep. So that's where I get super passionate about, is helping families understand that colleges need to have a minimum GPA. If your student's gifted and they have a high GPA, guess who's more valuable? The kid with the high GPA.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many good nuggets.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, it's with my high school players, that's all I used to tell them. I want to see you, I want to see your grades. I want to see your grades. I want to see your grades. Because look, I know, the chances of them going on and playing at very high levels is slim, very slim. Okay, so I want you to get those grades so you get into school, so you get a good education, and then you get a good job. I want you to enjoy yourself playing baseball while you're going through the process, but that GPA is just so important. Mm-hmm. So And the other thing too, like I had said in the intro, now they changed it. Baseball used to be 11.7 scholarships that they had to split up. And now they changed it, so now they can offer 34. So in other words, every single player on a high-level D1 team can get a full scholarship, okay? Fact of the matter is what you just said, most schools don't have enough money to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to change. In baseball, there's not going to be baseball money, but there's academic money.
So much academic money. And using baseball to help the students stand out is exactly a brilliant strategy. So it's important to know you're applying as an athlete and you're applying as an academia. Well, guess what? College is an academia destination. So they're going to weigh your intellect higher than they do your sport. Now, a college coach may say different than that, but I'm here to tell you that at the end of the day, a college gets ranked based on what is how many people apply, how many people were offered an admit, how many people enrolled. All of these statistics are so important to the university that they are balancing. I'll never forget my son's roommate in Harvard was on the Harvard baseball team. And I remember the first time I met him, I was like so impressed. I'm like, wow, what an accomplishment to get in academically to Harvard and play on the ball team. And he goes, well, I only have to get C's at Harvard. I still get the degree. And I thought, wow. That was an amazing insight from a young person where he was like, I got the grades to get me in. My baseball helped me stand out. I get to play baseball, travel all over. But at the end of the day, I only need C's to get out of here with a Harvard degree. So wild.
I was just going to say, he's a smart kid, okay? It shows why he got into Harvard. That's incredible.
So wise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So let me ask you. Somebody comes to you and they say, you know what, Shellee? I don't need to worry about anything. I mean, I'm so good in baseball that I'm going to have baseball. I'm going to get a scholarship. What goes through your mind when somebody says something like that?
I get so excited for them. I lean into it and I'm like, that was my dream. I really thought that was going to take me as far as I wanted to go. And I tell them my story. Honestly, it was my story. And I said, playing for softball for the USA, I remember going to Hong Kong and China and thinking I was pretty amazing. I'm not going to lie. Like, the newspapers wrote about me. All the kids at school were oohing and ahhing. I thought I was pretty darn good. And then when I got back and I started having to apply to college and I wasn't getting the love, all of a sudden, all of that got really heavy for me because everything was so wrapped up in my sport. I was all league, all state. I mean, I really thought there was not going to be a problem at all. The problem is my parents weren't involved and I had no idea how the game was to be played. And my coach could give a hoot. He was not interested. He was a English teacher and all he cared about was how my essays were looking. So he was not a help at all. And so we missed the boat. We did not know how the game was played, the connections, the combines, the strategy. And this was like, my kids call it the cavewomen days. This was a long time ago. And still, it was challenging. So I really had to decide, did I want to play softball or did I want to go to college to learn? And I ended up going to a college and I did play softball, but it wasn't D1. And so I had to pay, or my dad nicely paid, but it was a whole $3,000 a semester back then. And he complained every step of the way. So I tell families, here's the thing. If your child is not a 4-year varsity athlete in high school, D1 probably is going to be a reach. If they're not all league, all state, D1, probably a reach. If they don't have the fastest time around the bases or they don't have the highest batting average, probably not a D1. And I don't say it to have a student not think I trust them or am confident about them. I just want them to know to have a plan B. Yeah, go have plan A all the way. But let's talk about plan B and plan C, because one injury is what kept both of my two children out of going D1. Both of them got injured their senior year in high school, and that changed everything. Your brain, on the other hand, will take you forever and ever and ever. And it's a beautiful thing. So even my firstborn who went to Harvard, he blew out his knee playing a pickup game, actually in New York, at one of the big parks, a pickup game, MCL, ACL, and that's why he decided to be an orthopedic surgeon. So sometimes things happen and you just kind of have to pivot. We never know when that unfortunate situation's going to happen. But if your grades are solid, you'll never have to worry.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So another thing that people tend to overlook is, I'm going to call them the intangibles, because that's what we call them in baseball. Things like leadership, service, character. What type of roles do they play in admissions?
So they're really quite critical at this point. Think about this, families. Somebody's going to have the same GPA or higher than your child. Somebody's going to have the same test score or higher than your child. Somebody's going to have the same major as your child. How will the admissions department decide? Well, they're going to look at, are they entitled or have they served their community? Can they collaborate with others to create the change they wish to see in the world? Can they lead others to be amazing? And do they have proof of doing it? That's what colleges are looking for. Here's the one thing everybody wants to know. How do students excel in college right now, 2026? Who are they? What matters to them? And how have they proven it? That's it. It's a simple equation. But I want to encourage every family to look at their teenager this evening and say, who are you? And just be really quiet. They're going to look at you like you've lost your mind. They're going to look at their phone, and then they're going to be like, I don't know. And that is the tragedy in all of this, because if they can't tell you, how are they ever going to tell the universities who they are, what matters to them, and how have they proven it? So it seems like it's so complex. In all reality, it's very simple. Colleges are looking for your student not to come and sit and take an education and leave. They're looking for them to come and make their school better, more enjoyable, more intellectual, put the diploma on the wall. And now, guess what? You're advertising for the alumni. So college is a business. Just like we have businesses, they're looking for students who are going to make their school better.
Very interesting, because, you basically explain the same thing that we tell players athletically. So absolutely, those intangibles that separate you. So you put it in an academic way, and the same thing applies in athletics. They want to see your character, how you handle failure, all of this stuff, aside from your baseball ability.
Mm-hmm. So true. I tell students all the time, leadership is not for college, it's for life. So if you're doing all of these things thinking, I'm just doing it for college, then you're doing it wrong. Colleges want you to be great human beings. We have an international nonprofit that our students work with, and I started it. It's called empowereducation.world. And the reason why I started it is I knew that teenagers were having a really tough time serving other people. One, they're pressed for time, especially athletes, right? Time is our biggest challenge. And so we meet one time a week where we meet online, and I have a school in Uganda that we built 2 schools and we educate over 900 children. Wow. I now mentor teenagers where they get to use their passion to change the life of children elsewhere. My favorite one is I had a soccer player last year who was so passionate about his sport that he raised over $3,000 and bought brand new uniforms for all of the children at the school. He got them soccer balls and he got them soccer net. And I mean, you would have thought that these kids had just won the lottery. They'd never seen anything like this. And guess what it did for that young man? Not only did he feel really good about what he accomplished, his interviews at the universities were phenomenal. His essays were amazing. He had real life stories that he could share with the universities. These are the things that colleges are looking for. They're not looking for people to sign up and show up. They're looking for people who really care about other people.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, again, we always say that as coaches, we're preparing you for life. And other than, I mean, not only are we preparing you for life, and I say this all the time, everything is about relationships. Mm-hmm. Everything that we do is about relationships. So if you're able to, like you said, help others and get along with others, well, those are building relationships.
Yes, so important. I mean, there's very few jobs in the world that you don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
There's very few. And so with AI coming, there's going to be less and less of those. They need people who can articulate what they're thinking and collaborate with people to come up with wonderful ideas. So if they start doing it now, they're practicing for life. They're not preparing for college.
Right. Exactly. So I know the answer to this question, but I want my listeners to hear it from you, okay? So you have a kid, he's a serious baseball player. Been doing well, 12, 13, 14 years old, he becomes a freshman in high school. When should he start preparing academically if college baseball is his goal?
So academically, the first thing you want to do is teach him to love to read. Get him baseball books, get him comic books, get him anything that you can to build his vocabulary. And that can start as soon as he learns to read. The second thing that you're going to want to do is mirror what you want. In other words, put your phone down or put your phone in a book. Act as if you're reading because they want to do exactly what you're doing. So that's the next thing. After that, by the time they're in middle school, they can absolutely start preparing for college. So what does that mean? The day they promote from 8th grade, college switch turns on, which means they start looking at how many service hours, what did they do, how many hours did they do it, how many years did they do it, did they lead it? And on the Common App, there's a spot for 10 activities, honors, and awards. On the UC application, there are 20. So if you wait until you're a junior or a senior, you're never going to come up with enough to be competitive. The other piece is if you want scholarships, students can start applying to scholarships in 4th grade for college. So if you are waiting, you are missing out on thousands of dollars and the opportunity for your child to be less busy than they will in high school when most people start. The FAFSA will look at the second semester of your sophomore year and the first semester of your junior year. That means you need to get your financial house in order by then. And so all of this preparation is think about like an airplane taking off on a runway. If the pilot gets on the intercom and says, "Hey, just want you all to know it's going to feel like a rocket ship. We have a short runway, we're going." And even though he tells you your heart is beating, that's the student who waits until the very last minute to prepare. Then we have the one the runway is so long, the plane is never going to take off. And you're like, dang, this is crazy. You have all the time in the world to prepare, and it's gentle and it's easy. So when should you start? The most ultimate time would be 7th and 8th grade. Ultimate would be when you promote from 8th grade because you haven't made any mistakes yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. I mean, let's face it, it's like anything else. Start as early as you can, right? And start getting everything in order as early as you can, and then it won't be a problem. Whereas if you do wait, then it's going to be that much more work and, you know, that much harder. But okay, so let me ask you this question. Again, this is kind of self-serving because I'm a junior college coach.
Mhm.
So, you know, you don't listen to your advice and you don't start early, okay? And you start late. And you know what? The schools are not knocking on your door, not the schools you want to. What kind of role would a junior college play in that scenario where maybe he doesn't have the grades to get into the school he wants to?
So, what's important to think about for a community college is where. Some community colleges can be amazing jumping boards to prepare that child for more maturity, to prepare them academically, to help them to get serious. But at some locations, like the populous ones, California, where everybody wants to be for junior college, they're so overcrowded here that students are taking 4 years to get a 2 year degree. So then it becomes the question of opportunity cost. How cheap is it at that point? So it really is not, I don't believe it's a yes or a no. I believe it's what is best for your child and your family, because we have to look college ready. There's a team of us, it's not just me. And we have test strategists, we have essay editors, we have college consultants, and we all are pouring into helping the family navigate the process. So what we're trying to help students really get clear on is what is right for them. Do they want a 2 year degree, a 4 year degree? Do they need to go 6 years, 8 years, 12 years? Because that's going to make a difference at what school they apply to and if they take on early debt or if they don't. These things are more important than saying, I think we're just going to, it's almost like we don't think we're going to be successful doing a 4 year, so I think we're just going to default to a 2 year. I think if a 2 year is part of the plan, it could be a great plan. But if it's just, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything, so I guess we'll just send them to a community college. Here's the drawbacks that everybody needs to know. A lot of times, families tell their child, if you do not go to college, you have to move out. So the student who doesn't really want to go to college, maybe they want to go to trade school, plumbing, electrical, whatever, they begrudgingly go off to community college and they kind of buy their time, if you will, and they're just kind of messing around, and then they get a job and then they're like, I don't even want to go to school. In California, the chances of somebody graduating and going from a community college to a 4 year is 3.5%.
Wow.
So the statistics would tell me that's a very dangerous route to go, but it's not at every community college. There's some community college, they're begging students to go there just to fill classrooms. You could get in and out in maybe a year and a half if you get serious. That would be genius, unless you have over a 3.5 GPA, because getting in as a transfer student to a university is way harder than getting in from high school straight away. So it's just more competitive and there's less room. So to get into college, say there might be a 21% chance of getting in. To transfer in, there may be a 4% chance. It just is, there's less people leaving, which means there's less spots available, which means it's more competitive, which is counterintuitive, I understand, but that is what we know to be true. I think it's great for some students, and I think some students are great at trade schools. I don't think there has to be one path.
I just find that very interesting because where I was trying to lead you with that question was that if you, for lack of a better description, if you screw up your high school career academically, well, go to junior college, get those grades up, and then that transfer would be easier to a 4 year school. But you're saying no, right? It's not
Under a
easy.
3.5. So a 3.5 is kind of that benchmark of you're not only going to get into a good college, but you should receive some financial support. Anything under a 3.0, you're not going to receive financial support. You haven't brought your A game, right? So why would they pay you for it? And then the second piece is, were you just not applying yourself? Do you have a learning disorder? Like, they want to know the why. If it's just like, hey, I was really immature my first 2 years, I matured, awesome. That's a totally different program than somebody who's just like, I tried really hard to get my C's. And if that's the case, they may need to go to community college to build up their intellect, their academic, tenacity before they go and compete with students who are coming out of high school with a much higher GPA. So we look to protect the student from what they don't know. And so the first thing that we're doing is we're like, what is your gift and talent? Baseball, outstanding. Do you want to play professionally? Great. How are you statistically? Great. And then you look and all of their family is like 5 foot. And you're like, okay, as much as I love all of that, the chances of you really playing in the majors is now cut down. It's not you. And I'm sorry, but you were not given that gift of size and muscle and speed. And you know what I mean? So they have to have a lot of things line up. And so we focus on the student first and then the school. So the first thing we're trying to help a family understand is, who is your child? Who are their gifts? What are their gifts and talents? What are their core values? Who do they advocate for? Now we're really clear who this human being is. Here's the best majors for who you are. Here's the best careers for the type of person you are. AI will be taking those jobs by the time you graduate from college, so we need to evaluate that. And now it's time to prepare. Everybody wants to do it the reverse. Oh, I want to go to UC Santa Barbara. Why? It's in a great location. Yeah, but why? I just told you it's in a great location. So we have to be really careful, because a lot of times they just don't know how to do this process, and they choose the wrong triggers, and that leads to getting them to the wrong school with the wrong debt. And now we've buried them with debt, and they didn't pick the right major to get out and have a career. Yeah. That's the downside.
Yeah, I could see it, but that's very interesting. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that. So if a player comes to junior college, and again, maybe he didn't have the grades in high school, so he opted to go to the junior college. If he gets a 3.5 or better, he has a good chance of going on to a 4-year school, no problem, right?
He does. He would have had a better chance if he had a 3.5 in high school going straight in. But if he didn't, that's water under the bridge. We can't regret. Now he matures, he sees why he needs to do it, and that leads him to the story that's going to be the essay that's going to help them understand why he didn't go straight in. So it's not that one's better than another, because you can't go from a 2.5 into a 4-year college and have the same experience. You will struggle. And that's just not fair to the student. And unless they figured out it was a learning disability or, something that we could fix, if it was just, I figured it out a little too late, then they have to prove that they can do it before school is going to believe them. Well, I just matured. Trust me.
Right. Well, let's look at this from, and again, I'm going to kind of stay with the junior college thing. Let's look at this from an athletic standpoint. So, kid is high school player, decent grades, maybe not the 3.5, maybe like a 3.0, maybe a little bit less, whatever. Not a terrible student, but not a great student. Very, very gifted baseball-wise, okay? And he wants to continue to play. Well, as well as I do, right now, the college landscape for baseball players has changed dramatically, okay? So it's very difficult for high school players to get recruited, You have to be the best of the best to get recruited into a 4-year school. It's going to be very hard. So, is that a good option for a player that maybe eventually wants to play at a 4-year school, go to a junior college, get the grades up to the 3.5, hone your skills as a baseball player, and then let's see where it falls from there?
Absolutely. Like I said, there's really not a choice for that young person who didn't apply themselves in high school. Maybe there's lots of reasons why. I think for some, they just need more time. It could be they just need to, maybe they're a young graduate, maybe physically they are just hitting their stride as far as putting on muscle, as far as really getting strong, right? And so I tell families it has to be about the child, not about the school. And whatever that looks like, if that's community college, if that's a gap year, if that is, they need to have a plan of what it looks like. Just going to a community college is still not a plan, because that's 2 years, and really it's a year, and then you have to apply. So there's not a lot of time for somebody to be like, oh, we're just going to go there and see what happens. It doesn't work like that, because there's not that element of time that they need. So we work with a lot of community college transfers, and that's how I know all of this information is, sometimes if they have the dream of playing the sport and they didn't get picked up by a school that they wanted to attend with that sport, and maybe they go to a community college that has connections with one coach to another, so a community college to a 4-year, or maybe they are going to get faster or stronger or whatever their gift is going to be. These are all good reasons to consider what is the best path. It's not one path that's best for everybody. Like my daughter told me, please don't make me go to Harvard, Mom. That place looks so scary. And she meant it. She's like, I know that I don't want to work that hard for my grades.
Right.
And she knew that. And so if you have a student who's just like, they're not applying themselves, or maybe they just don't get it yet, then maybe they need a little bit more time. And there's no shame in that. It just means they have a different plan and a different strategy that we need to work. Here's the really important thing, though, Jimmy, for listeners of community college. Not every class they take will transfer to their 4-year university. So just because they took classes at the community college, that does not mean that they won't have to take them at the 4-year university. If you don't have a plan and you don't have a strategy, you may have to go multiple years to have enough credits to transfer. That nobody seems to be talking about to these kids. And I just want you to understand, it is so frustrating for them to take more math, more history, more science, more English, just to know that, oh, that one doesn't transfer to our school. You have to take it again. Why? College is a business. If you take it at their school, that's money in their pocket.
Yeah.
It does not mean anything about your child is not doing a great job. It is really frustrating for a teenager to have paid for it, taken the class, and now not be able to transfer because they thought it was going to transfer.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point that people do need to understand because, yeah, I mean, in my case, it's a state community college. So if you're going to go to any state schools,
yeah,
then you're fine, because then it's a state school that they're going to transfer. But, again, maybe if you want to transfer to Harvard, well, maybe that won't fly.
Or a private school. A lot of private schools will not take the state classes. They don't think they're worthy or good enough, or they want you to pay them for that same class. So there's many reasons why, but it really is heartbreaking for me when I work with a transfer student who was counseled by the community college that yes, these will transfer. I said, do you have it in writing? Well, no. Can you get it in writing? Oh, no, that person's not there anymore. Now they're in a world of hurt because they can't transfer. So, and parents, guess what? When they go off to college, you're nobody. They're 18 and they don't have to tell you a thing.
Yeah.
So you really want to be very cautious to just give this to your teenager to figure out, because it's not that easy. If it was, I would tell you exactly what they need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the coaches could actually play a role in that. Whereas, hey, Johnny, listen, I know you're here. You're trying to build up your GPA. You're trying to hone your baseball skills because you want to go to XYZ school. Okay, let me contact that school, find out if what you're taking here is going to transfer, and then we'll build off of that. So you could
So
put that on the
good.
coaches. If you're going to be a good coach, I shouldn't even say that. If you're going to coach kids, then coach kids. And there's
So
more to it than
good.
just baseball.
I wish. I really wish more people felt like that. They're just kind of like, that's not my job. That's the counseling department's job. And I had a student who was told they had enough units to transfer. They applied, they got in to another school. They paid all of their fees. They they rented an apartment. First day they said, "Oh no, you're 2 classes short. You can't come here."
Oh, no.
And that poor child, it broke my heart. And her parents called, they weren't my client. They came after and they said, we need your help. We do not want this again. But it was just the reality of the parents thinking that this teenager should be able to navigate this on their own. And she got bad advice. And it cost her a year. And every year matters.
Yeah, I mean, that right there is a nightmare. Oh, God. Um, One other thing that came up that I wanted to ask you. So we know that D3 schools, there's no money, athletically. Okay. Um, so why is sometimes, because again, like we talked about, everybody's looking at D1. I want to be D1. And from a baseball standpoint, I always tell them that there's Division 3 schools that would smack the crap out of some Division 1 schools. Okay. So don't let me hit as Division 1. We want to be the best that we can be to play at the highest level that we could play at. And if that level is D3, so be it. Be the best D3 player you can be. But anyway, can a D3 school be like a smarter financial move than, say, go to a D2 where you're going to get a partial, or maybe even, not a D1 where you're getting let's say where you're getting a partial from a D2. It could be smarter to go to the D3.
So, and there's so many ways to look at this. Such a great question. First thing you want to look at is there an academic fit, a social fit, and a financial fit? Okay. And when you look at each school, that's how you should evaluate. And the athletic fit. If you're leading with the athletic fit, that's a dangerous way to look at it, because if you care about the finances. So because you asked, does it make sense? I can get a student a full ride at a private school, and they may play D3, but they got it academically. So is that a better deal? I think that's a way better deal, right?
I'd say so.
So it really comes down to, how is that student going to stand out? What is their strategy? Are they going to go in as a scholar athlete? Are they going to go as an athlete who wants to go to school? Are they going to, what is their plan and their strategy? Because that's going to be the most important piece. If they're like, I'm not going on to college unless I can play ball, but my family can't afford a dime, then they better go academically, right? That's all there is to it, because they'll get hands down way more money academically than they will athletically. In baseball. In other sports, not the same, but in baseball. Right. So I want families to really get clear. If you can't afford college, you better be using the pitching coach as a math tutor. You better figure out how to help them stand out academically. And it's not a perfect GPA. It's a GPA that has a test score that matches PSAT, SAT, or ACT. It's having a GPA that they're proud of, that they really worked hard for, whatever that is. It's for leading other students to create change. It's for serving their community. All the things we want them to do as an adult, we're just doing it now. And so if students are leading by, I just want to play baseball, and that was me, so I own that. I just want to play, I just want to play, I just want to play. I want you to really think about, if you're just good enough to get into a D2 or a D3, playing professional probably is not on the horizon, and you better find another way to make money. And that's just the reality. I never tell a student and shoot them down, but I want the people who are paying for this joyride to understand, if you just want to play, what's the return on that investment? If you're going to go into $400,000 of debt so he can play baseball for a few more years, I don't know if that's really a great idea. And that's what I like families to consider. If they get to go to college on an academic scholarship and they get to play ball, hands down, all day long, go have fun. But be mindful. What's that return on investment of that education?
Yeah, I mean, that's such good advice. And the other thing that I like about it is what you were saying about, that was you. You thought that, the softball was going to carry you through, but what better teacher is there than experience? Okay.
Yeah.
You have that experience to be able to, and something that you said early on too, that I just want to kind of hammer home, that I thought was so important, that you said, now, especially nowadays, parents will spend, like you said, trainers, hitting coaches, strength and agility coaches, travel baseball, which they're paying tens of thousands of dollars for these kids to play.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they don't spend money on a tutor. That makes no sense. And I just love that you said that, because that needs to be hammered home. That, because believe me, I constantly talk about it on this show, that people are wasting their money, because out of the, 15 million kids that play youth baseball or youth sports, I forget the numbers, but I think there's like 7 or 8 million that play youth baseball. Only 500,000 of them play high school baseball. What are you wasting all that money for?
Yeah.
Give it to a tutor. Get the kid into Harvard. Maybe he'll get a free line ride like your kid did. And, he's not playing for the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had said before, you want to play, you want to be the best that you can be at the highest level you can achieve, period.
Yeah.
Okay? And for
And
most
that's what we
people,
want.
it's that level is, Division III. Maybe it
Mm-hmm.
is junior college, maybe D2, and much less D1. Forget about the pros. That's a ridiculous number.
Sure.
So, but I love that you said it. Spend the money on the tutor. The hell with the damn trainers. I mean, most of them don't know what the hell they're doing anyway.
I did not say that.
No, I did. I mean, I was just talking about it the other day. I get college players that come in, and I look at them and I said, the hell have you been doing now? Let's say he's an 18-year-old kid. He's been playing for 13 years. And I'll look at him and say, what the hell have you been playing for 13 years? You're dropping your hands. You're doing this. You're doing that. Nobody corrected you. And it cost their parents thousands of dollars. I don't want to go off on a tangent too much, because I could go nuts on that. But what I want you to do, wait, one last thing, and then I want you to wrap this up for me, is, and this could play a role, because I know it does in baseball. How do families separate ego from opportunity? So what I mean by that, I'll just clarify a little bit. My son is going to go, I'll use Harvard. No, I don't want to pick on Harvard. Your son went there. My son's only going to Yale. How do you separate that from, well, you know what? You may want your kid to go to Yale, but he ain't going to cut it. How do you do that?
So the first is, I get excited for them, and I'm like, that's such a great dream. It's a dream for every student. I don't care what your GPA is. I don't care what your athletic ability is. That particular school is what we call a reach. And because that's a reach, that's a plan A, but we need a plan B and we need a plan C. I know that you don't want a B and a C. I understand that. But if we don't, you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, and that's a dangerous proposition. So why is it that you want to go to Yale and play baseball? And they look at their parent, and I'm like, I know exactly what we're dealing with here. So it's really easy if the student doesn't have the dream to help them understand what is the right path for them. And the parent truly loves their child. And once they see that that particular child, maybe their body composition is not right, maybe their speed and agility is not right, maybe there's just something that they're not gifted in. It has nothing to do with how amazing that child is. It just is what it is. And so I think that the best way I recommend to handle it is to leave it as a plan A. Let that child dream. Let that child have that as long as we can. But we have to have the backup plan, right? Just like we have the backup catcher, the backup pitcher, the backup short. We have a backup. So it's important, families, one injury, right? The Tommy John surgery, right there. I mean, one thing can change that so fast. So even if your child is the dream, I just want you to know, honor them, love them, appreciate them, but also let them know that's not why you love them and honor them and appreciate them. It's because of the human being they are. So in case they get an injury or in case they don't get picked up, they still feel honored and loved and appreciated. And then they go off to be a great adult, not letting you down. And so I have 4 kids. I was the loudest parent in the stands every single year. And my kids, we get so embarrassed. And people are like, you're living vicariously through your kids. And I'm like, no, I want my kids to know that I love and support them no matter what. It doesn't matter what level they competed at. I just wanted them to feel, you know, being an athlete, you learn a lot about life. You learn about failing forward. You learn a lot about dusting yourself off. You learn about collaboration, teamwork. So where other people might be thinking it's just a sport, I don't believe that. I believe that the skills they're learning make them into amazing adults. And if we can just focus on helping them be amazing adults and don't worry about the badge, I think everybody's just going to be a lot happier.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I said it before and, I'll say it again, that as a baseball coach, that's what I'm teaching them. Teaching them how to be good people. I'm not, I'm going to teach you the best I can to be the best you can baseball wise, but that's not really my goal, because I know that you need to be a really good person, because chances are you're not going to play baseball after another couple of years. It's, it's going to be over. Those are what the numbers say. Now, there's the 1 off, the 2 off that will, but let's make good people, hold the door open for a little old lady that's coming into the store. Hold the door open for her. Say please, say thank you. Look me in the eye when you're talking, that type of thing. That's what we're teaching.
Yeah.
And then, if you can feel the ground ball real good, then that's a bonus.
I love it. Keep it all in perspective.
That's really what it is. So, okay, so wrap this all up. Give the people out there your best advice, okay, as baseball players, for their recruiting, their scholarship, their money, how they're going to pay for college.
My best advice is have a plan and start and stay on the plan. And if you can't formulate it yourself, get some help for somebody who can help you. Not every child is going to listen to their parent. Remember, I have 4 of them. 1 listened, 3 challenged me. So I hired help for my other 3 to tell them what I would have told them. So I'm right in there with you, parents. The other thing is, do not allow your teenager to do this on their own. If you think that's a good idea, I want you to ask them what they would do with $1 million and you will understand they have no financial literacy whatsoever. So talking about right now, colleges are, we're reaching a six-figure mark. We're at $97,000 a year right now at NYU. And I will tell you, this is not something they're ready for. They need you to be there, to be a part of their village. I think a coach is a part of the village. I think teachers are part of their village. Having a village that supports your child is the best gift that you can give them. So start early. Don't force, what do you want to major in? You don't know anything. You're not going to major in art. That's stupid. It won't pay the bill. Like, the more negative we are, the more they're going to push. They're teenagers. That's what we do, right? We're trying to learn how to adult. If you say, that sounds amazing, tell me about that. And then you hear deeper, you hear the understanding of, that's not at all what they were saying. This is what they really meant. So really, the best advice I've ever given families is ask a question and then say nothing. And let them squirm and let them think about it and let them articulate it. Maybe they've never thought about it. So having a plan of what they want, don't be surprised if they ask Siri, if they ask Google. They're of a generation that's so very different than years past. They need a village, and it's really important that they have a plan.
I love it. So if people wanted to get in touch with you, how could they, I know you have the website. Give everybody your information.
Sure. So I have two best-selling books. The first one is How to Send Your Student to College Without Losing Your Mind or Your Money. And the second one is The College Admissions Plan Simplified. I have both of those books on sale right now for $5 for your listeners because I really want everybody to have the foundation, right? It's like the rule book for baseball. This is the rule book for college. That's the minimum. If you're like, I just want free resources, Shellee, I've got this, I would go to collegereadyplan.com. That is our website, and we give a ton of free resources, free webinars. We are huge givers. If you're like, Shellee, I have no desire to do this whatsoever. My child doesn't listen to me no matter what. I don't want to learn all of this. I want to go to work and have somebody else do it. You'll want to go to collegereadyplan.info and let me help you. Let me navigate. We have prices that start at $27 a month and go up into the thousands based on exactly what you want and need. But the bottom line is you don't have to do it alone, and it's a lot easier to have a village.
That's fantastic. Do you have any socials or anything like that?
We are on every social media. So College Ready that's the name of the company. We added the plan because that's how important it is. But we're on Insta, Facebook. We have groups. Again, follow the website and you will find us anywhere and everywhere.
That's great. Well, I got to tell you, Shellee, this was a fantastic discussion. I loved it. I mean, gave me a lot of information. I know that people out there are much more informed now after. So thank you so much for reaching out, number one, and number two, for coming on tonight.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks so much, Jimmy.
Enjoy the rest of the night, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Well, as we should know by now, there are very few athletic scholarships in college baseball, and most of them are partial. They're not full rides. Academic and merit scholarships are where the real money is. Now, I don't want to say that you should not strive to get a full scholarship in baseball. We should. However, and I think that Shellee alluded a lot to this during the show, was we need to have a backup plan. A strong GPA doesn't just help you get into college. It can actually help coaches recruit you. Coaches recruit players, but admissions officers are the ones that make the final decision. So, as we know, if you have a poor GPA and you're the most talented baseball player on the face of the earth, that bad GPA is going to hurt you. So we have to keep those grades up. The academic part of college baseball is extremely important, and I would even venture to say it's more important than your ability or your talent as a baseball player. Let's face it, the higher your academic profile is, the more valuable you become to the program. So let's build a total student athlete profile. And we also talked about the intangibles as far as a college applicant, that you have to do community service. You have to do things that are going to appeal to the college in order to get you into that school. So that's another aspect of college admissions that we need to take care of. So another takeaway from what Shellee said is that the smartest families are the ones that are creating a strategy early. She even mentioned 8th grade going into your freshman year. Have a plan. Just like everything else. I mean, in the baseball world as a coach, I got to have a practice plan. I have to have a plan for my program. We have to plan. You have to do it academically too. And also remember too that, well, let's face it, a better baseball school isn't always a better fit, right? Because really, the baseball is important, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to minimize anything. However, what's more important is life after baseball. So if we take care of our academics, get into a good school, get a good degree while playing baseball, well, to me, that's a win-win. You have to ask yourself, if baseball was taken away from me, would I still be a strong college applicant? That's the way you have to look at it. And the other thing, too, I want to let parents know is, we know that there's that ego thing that rears its ugly head around baseball. Well, it rears its ugly head around schools also. People want to say, my son went to this school and he's on the baseball team at this school and da-da-da-da-da. Well, maybe that school's not a good academic fit. Maybe if he went to another school that maybe is not so ego-driven, it might be a better fit for him, and it might be good for your player in the long run. So, again, the biggest takeaway, and I really love this conversation with Shellee, because what I got out of it, and it is possible based on what she said, is that the goal isn't just to play college baseball. It's really to graduate with as little debt as possible, with a degree that'll help you for the rest of your life. So head on over to Shellee's website at collegereadyplan.com. A lot of information, and look, let's face it, if we can get help so that we could save money, because we all know how expensive college educations are, and I'm also sure that most people don't know everything that's available to you, so you need somebody like Shellee that's going to be able to help you to get, the best bang for your buck. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. So, if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Visit the website at thectbshow.net. Listen to your favorite episodes, and please leave us a review. You can also reach out to the show on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and get this, the old man has finally got us on TikTok. Keeps me young. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, please drop us an email at clearingthebases@gmail.com. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content and reach more people in the baseball community just like you. And also, let me know if you'd like to be a guest. Until then, coaches and players, keep practicing, stay positive, and remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.